This is an African Fat Tailed Gecko, maybe the most underrated lizard in the entire pet trade, maybe the most underrated reptile in the entire pet trade. And we're going to talk about why this is such an amazing lizard, how you can take care of an African Fat Tailed Gecko properly. This is Diglett. I'm Adam. You're watching Wiccan's Wicked Reptiles. Stick around. Now, if you've been following the channel, you're probably thinking, well, that's a different looking leopard gecko than what's normally on your shoulder. It's not a leopard gecko. It's an African Fat Tailed Gecko. And although very similar and have very similar requirements, there are a few differences, and let's go over what makes African Fat Tailed Geckos so darn awesome. African Fat Tailed Geckos are ground-dwelling lizards from parts of Africa, Western Africa. They're going to be found in parts of rocklands, scrublands, grasslands, but in general, it's going to be a little bit more humid than their leopard gecko cousins. And right off the bat, this is a normal morph or a wild type. This is kind of what you'd see in the wild, although there is some variation. This is not a morph of an African Fat Tail. This is just what they look like. With any gecko, any lizard, any animal that you're going to keep in your care, you've got to know how big does it get. And with these guys, this is not as big as they get. They might get a whopping 1 or 2 inches longer. These guys are going to be between 7 and 9 inches on average. There are outliers. This is a pretty small subadult, so they do get a little bit bigger than this. Although for the month and a half or 2 months that I've had her, she's grown quite a bit actually. So they grow pretty quickly. They'll be at full size around 9 months to a year, depending on how well they were on food when they first hatched out of the egg, and how well they continue to be on food, or if they're late starters, or what their appetite's like. And I'll tell you, Diglett, she's got a voracious appetite. She's ready to eat all the time. We're going to talk about that in a second. So you know how big they get. How big of an enclosure do they need? That's important. How big of a footprint in your home is this animal going to take? Not much at all. I mean, if you want to keep them in an aquarium, some people will say a 10-gallon. I prefer the measurements of a 20-gallon, although if you want to keep them in a tub, for an adult, my suggestion is a 28-quart tub. There's a bunch of other options. Behind me here, we've got the hognose snakes. They're in a compartment of 3, about 20 gallons apiece. And once I get another one of these, well, Diglett's going to get a home of her own, but for now, this is what her tub looks like. Very simple. The enclosure is basic, right? You can make it as elaborate as you want, as long as you've got a couple of hides, one of them being a humid hide, right? We're going to talk about humidity in a moment. One of them being a drier hide on the cool side, I suggest, so they have a chance. They can hide on the warm side, hide on the cool side, and then you can have decor. I always suggest a few pieces, I don't know, fake plants or something, a turned over log, something for them to hide behind and feel secure, and then they're going to need a water bowl and a food bowl, of course, because, I mean, living things do better for longer if they eat and drink. And just quickly on the substrate, I don't want to suggest loose substrate, although they can do pretty well on loose substrate. They also do really well on paper towel. Of course, when they're babies, they're more prone to impaction, although if you use the correct loose substrate, you're not going to have that as in adults. So babies, I always suggest paper towel, newspaper, something like that. With adults, you can use a substrate mixture, Eco-Earth and a little bit of play sand. Make sure it's a round granular sand, not an angular sand that's used for, say, concrete finishing or construction of any sorts, because that will stick together, where a round substrate or a round type of granule sand will not, which I think is safe if it is mixed with, say, Eco-Earth or something like that, like I do with the leopard geckos. The heating and humidity and lighting, we'll put it in there too, is also relatively simple. First off the bat, lighting, you don't really need any special lighting. They do need to know it's day, need to know that it's not day anymore. They need a day and night cycle to be healthy. But I mean, if you have them in a room in your home where you're gonna have light on or window, light coming through the window, that is good enough. They don't need a UVB light. Maybe they'll benefit from it, but it's not needed. They are crepuscular animals, or some would say even nocturnal. There's a debate. So they're not gonna be out basking, that's for darn sure. But just make sure that they know it when it's day, make sure they know when it's night, and then you're A-okay. And with all reptiles, you need some sort of dynamic range, some sort of thermoregulation area where they've got a cool side and a warm side and a basking spot. So the hottest spot for them to gather heat, either from above or from below. So with these guys, mid 70s to high 70s on the cool side, ambient temperature. On the warm side, mid 80s to high 80s, some would say. I keep mine around 85 as the ambient temperature on the warm side, or 86. And then the hot spot between 90 and 95. So With her, actually right now that I look, her warm spot is 91 and the ambient temperature is 85. And the cool end, the ambient temperature is 79. So that's perfect. You can have night drops safely, in my opinion, as low as 65, although most people will say around 70. I've had her for a little while now, and anyone else that I know that's had these type of geckos has their night drop somewhere around 65, 70 with no problems whatsoever. And the humidity is another thing to take into consideration. A little bit, although everything's been pretty much similar to a leopard gecko, this is where it kind of changes. Leopard geckos, if you want to watch a whole care guide, I've got one for you up here. They're going to be between 30 and 40%, where with African fat tails between 40 and 60% humidity, although some would say as high as 70. I keep this girl here right at about 60, 58, I think is where it is right now. And to measure this, by the way, a hydrometer thermometer combo that shows day and night cycle, like the hottest point and the lowest point, 24-hour and all time. That's what I suggest. That's what I use. You can get them on Amazon for like 26 bucks for a pack of 2. And remember how I mentioned that if you feed them, they last longer? Well, obviously you need to feed these guys. And that's a really simple thing to do because they only eat insects. So you don't need to go and buy mustard greens, collard greens, that type of thing that you might feed some other animals that would need that. These guys just straight up insects, appropriate size insects, such as crickets, for example, or mealworms, or on occasion maybe silkworms, superworms, things like that. Dubia roaches are great too if you can get them. And I don't like to say, this many times a day, this many insects, this time. It's really a care guide. If it's not perfect, it doesn't matter, and especially with temperature and humidity, that's why I give you that range. With these guys, with food, I recommend as babies, daily or every other day, appropriately sized insects. And then as they grow, you can feed them less often, but I mean more quantity because they're bigger. So with Diglett, as she approaches adulthood, I've been feeding her basically like an adult about every 3 days, sometimes every 2 days, sometimes every 4. As long as she's getting about, 3 feedings a week, 2 or 3 feedings a week at least, she's good to go. She's obviously putting on weight. She doesn't look like she's starving. So I think that's working for her. And then, just as many as she's going to eat. So I feed her mostly crickets and mealworms. Mealworms definitely most often because they're easy. You throw them in the fridge and they last forever. So that's the easiest way. I just throw a few in there. I dust them with calcium every feeding or every other feeding. And then once a week, I give her vitamin D3 as well, right? Don't go overboard with the D3, but they do need calcium supplement and D3 as well. Oh yeah. And give your gecko standing water. I know that they can survive without standing water, several species. This one in particular, although I do give standing water to all of my geckos and all of my animals, definitely make sure they've just got a dish of standing water, change it every couple days, and you're A-okay. I mean, you can put water drops in, of course, ReptiSafe or something similar if you're worried about chlorine or if you live in an area with particularly bad water quality. Or you can use distilled, or bottled water works too. Now with their behavior, no surprise, pretty cool. I mean, they're inquisitive. They act very much like a leopard gecko, although they are a little bit more skittish, a little bit more shy. This one actually hissed at me as I picked her up. She is also, of course, not super socialized. She came from a breeding facility and I've only had her for 2 months. So she still is getting used to the handling. And it hasn't been a ton of work. She hasn't really bitten me or anything like that. But just a little bit more work than a leopard gecko. But of all the reptiles you could get, especially lizards, I can't think of too many that are as easy to socialize and as much fun as these ones. And she hasn't stopped moving. I really love that about African fat tails. They're not boring in my opinion at all. And I mean, they look awesome as well. So if you want something to look at that not only is appealing to look at just the way that they look, but also the way that they move and the way that they interact and the way that they feed is awesome as well. Just kind of really going in for the kill. These guys are freaking awesome. One important thing I shouldn't forget to mention, this tail of theirs, African fat tails, well, they are able to come off. So just like a leopard gecko and several other species, if you grab a hold of it or a predator grabs a hold of it, it'll regrow. It won't look the same, but it will come off. So be careful about that. And last but not least, let's round it out. Price and availability, because can you get these things is a really important question. If you can't get an African fat tail or can't afford one or can't find one, this doesn't really mean much to you the entire video, but I appreciate you watching anyway. The good news is they're pretty easy to find. They're not super expensive. They're not as easy to find as their cousin a leopard gecko. This isn't a comparison guide, although we will do one if you want us to. But they are pretty similar in terms of price. This girl here, I think I paid 60 bucks for her at a reptile expo, or 50 maybe, I can't remember exactly. That's the price range they're going to be in for normals. And they're pretty easy to find as well. Not on every table, but you can probably find them in some pet stores, some reptile shops for sure. And at expos, I see them almost every single expo. So not difficult to find, not super expensive, of course. In terms of morphs, which is something that a lot of people ask about, the morphs are a lot more expensive and harder to find than leopard gecko morphs, but not super expensive. Here's just a couple examples of what they could look like. I'm not an expert on morphs of African fat tails, and I'm not going to pretend to be, so there you go. African fat tailed geckos. That's how you take care of them. That's what you need to know. Is there something I forgot? Drop it in the comment section below. Or, if you want me to do a different video, something that came to your mind, I wish that this channel would do it, I take every video idea out of the comment section below. So drop it down there. Smash subscribe if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate it. Because I do videos twice a week. That means I'll see you on Thursday. You're good. I like you. You could be like the new co-host of Wiccan's Wicked Reptiles. What do you think about that?